Hey, everybody, welcome back to another edition of Gruber Wired. I'm Mark Beach.
I'm John Dotson, and welcome back after the 4th of July.
Yeah.
Yeah, great times,
Did you miss us? No, because we recorded an episode.
We did, didn't we?
If you haven't watched it yet, go back and watch it. It's a really good episode.
It really is.
Yep.
Very good. We had a special guest on that show.
We did. I think a lot of you took it off, and we don't blame you because we took it off too. But
that we did.
Please go back and watch it. We had Alexandra from Optimal Fiber, and she was a great guest.
Yeah, very educational.
Yeah, it was very informative.
Yeah, very good stuff. Hey, just to let everybody know, we hit our first 118-degree day. So if you're in the Phoenix area, stay hydrated, drink your water.
Yeah, well, you know, it's I'm just waiting for the monsoon to kick back in.
Yeah.
We had it at the beginning of June, then the beginning of July. I hope we don't have to wait till the beginning of August.
We hope not.
Yeah, no. We need a little cool down here.
But you know what's just been just as hot as business? Business keeps just staying up there.
Another record month, another, just good things ahead.
The growth, I'll tell you, I was reading a lot of articles. There is a lot of just substantial growth in this field, in this industry taking place.
Yeah.
You can almost take a look at any sort of major city and take a look around the outskirts, the suburbs, and see what's taking place. Data centers especially are going up like crazy, especially here in Phoenix.
Yeah.
In fact, they just did some rezoning for data centers here.
Well, the whole AI craze, boom, whatever you want to call it, is just driving data center expansion to the next level. I mean, was it yesterday? NVIDIA became the first $4 trillion company.
Really?
The stock is at like $165 or something like that. And just a few years ago, it was $14.
Wish I bought in then.
No kidding, right?
Yeah.
Did you buy any there, Aaron or Cass? Did you get any NVIDIA stock?
No.
No. Hey, you know what? I just got offered to buy stock in was a coffee shop warehouse, right, Aaron?
Grow house. Plant house.
Yes, somewhat.
Well, I probably shouldn't say grow house.
If you give me money, it can be whatever you want it to be.
Whatever you want it to be, huh? No, but you were talking about just a nice little area so people can have some coffee, go outside, enjoy a nice garden.
I found a nice commercial building that had a nice outside lot that I would love to do like a garden, but have a coffee shop in the morning and then maybe a food service in the evening, and then sell plants and do other stuff out of it. But the wife is not convinced.
All right, Mrs. Aaron, get on board.
Yep. What do we have to do to get her on board on this, Aaron?
Give me money.
Cass has got some money for you, right, Cass?
Oh, no, I told him he should hire me.
See, there you go.
Well, and I'll work there, and I'll help host, like, bike and car meets, because they would love the foliage around their cars.
She wants you to use the OPM business method.
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
When you get this going, which is that?
OPM? Other people's money.
Other people's money.
I like that.
Hey, but just think, Aaron, if you get that up and running, what a great place to be able to bring some Teslas and get some beautiful pictures of them with the foliage in the background in a garden.
There you go.
There you go. In the Solos now, we have that three-wheeled car. I don't know if you've seen Pete driving around lately.
That thing's cool. Do you have a picture of that?
Do we?
Cass would make a great
Let me
barista.
take a gander.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that, Pete.
Yeah, and we're in the data center supply business, says Pete. Our products are required to outfit these large operations, and that's so true.
That is very true.
I mean, we are the, what do you want to call it? The oil in the gears is a good way to put it.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we manufacture all that infrastructure, whether it's the cabling products, copper cabling, fiber cabling, or metal products, racks, brackets, shelves, wire management. We can meet all those needs.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, just walking behind in our production area, it's incredible just to see how much is going on all the time.
Yeah.
It's like nonstop. We have such a great production team, and they just churn out great product.
That they do. Hey, there's those solo vehicles that we were just speaking of.
Yes.
Ah, very cool.
Yeah, so if you ever want any more information, their website is solo.car. Makes it super easy.
Solo.car, correct?
Correct.
Cool.
Those are pretty nifty.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
It's like an enclosed trike.
It's kind of is that way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Except it looks a lot more spacious. You think they're small until you get and really take a look at them.
Well, yeah.
There's a lot of space inside those.
Right. And you definitely, motorcycles are great, I'm sure. I don't ride them, but I know Cass does. But in the Arizona heat,
Yeah.
I
And Pete makes a great point right there, and this is true because I'm one of these people. 80% of commuters drive alone.
Yeah.
Right? Sorry, people. I have a minivan, right, to take the grandkids around when we need to and have the room to do so. But
Right.
probably, I would say, Pete, 90% of the time, it's me, myself, and I driving that minivan.
right.
And so I can understand why there's a need for this type of vehicle out there.
Sure. Yeah, I remember seeing these when they first came out. They had guys, kind of demoing them, and it was over at Kierland,
Okay.
and right across from Scottsdale Quarter. And I thought, wow, this is kind of cool. These are really nifty. And I know that Gruber now we're distributing them or
We're getting ready to,
yeah,
correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know we're fixing it up. I know Pete's working with the Solo owner about getting some of the old ones up and running again.
Yeah.
And then, we should be
In
promoting
the solo
them pretty soon.
business.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cass wanted to say something there.
Yeah, so I ride motorcycles. You said that. I love my motorcycle, don't get me wrong, but you do technically have to have another license to ride a motorcycle. With the Solo, you don't really have to have one.
I was curious about that because I had looked into
As far
some
as I'm
other
aware.
trikes,
Yeah.
and a lot of the trikes out there, you have to have a motorcycle endorsement.
Yeah, you have to have an endorsement. There also is the Spider, which has a completely different endorsement. So there's the 3-wheeled endorsement and the 2-wheeled endorsement.
Gotcha.
I obviously have the 2-wheel because I have a motorcycle. But again, you kind of have to figure out your own traffic laws because they could vary from state to state, just like how filtering and splitting varies from state to state. Here we can filter, we can't split. There's a difference.
Gotcha.
But yeah, as far as I'm aware, solos don't have an additional license, as far as I'm
Okay.
aware.
Yeah, there you
That's
go.
definitely a benefit, though, correct? So you don't have to go out to get that extra license or take classes, in order
Right.
to operate one of those vehicles.
Yeah.
And it's great, like I said, for commuting in town. I mean, I don't foresee anyone getting in a Solo and driving cross country. Not to per se it couldn't be done,
Right.
But, for
grocery
everyday
store,
driving,
yeah. I mean, you're driving to work if, your commute's short or even if it's not. But yeah, I mean,
yeah,
we're very practical.
yeah. So
All right,
anyway, back
let's
to
talk
data
about
centers.
servers.
Yes, we're going to
Yeah.
talk about servers today, and
No, yeah, Cass, not those kind of servers.
We're talking about those servers, right?
Say servers,
That's it.
right?
So, like, those ones-
serving a tennis ball, serving a volleyball, coffee. Somebody serving coffee.
Yeah, wait.
Yeah, because I
sir.
used to play
Process
tennis. I used
server.
to have to
Not
serve
those
because I played
servers.
You
tennis.
know all about the process server, right?
Yeah. We chase people down all the time.
What do you mean? Wrong type of servers, Cass? What are you trying to do to us here?
Well, I mean, I played tennis when I was a kid. I thought that was the one that you were telling me about.
you
And then my
go.
cousin also plays volleyball. So
I can understand the confusion, but we're talking about
Yeah, we're talking
the
about
kind of servers that affect everyone.
That's right, data room servers.
Yes.
So a little bit different there. Something we're going to start out with today a little bit different. We have actually put a test together, and we're going to go over that test without the answers, and then at the end of the show, bring the test back up and give the answers. So if you're on today and you're watching and you want to chime in and you know some of the answers to these tests, go ahead and chime in and let us know.
Sure.
So pull up test note page number 1. So, want to start reading these, Mark?
What is the primary function of a server in a network? To store and manage data, to connect devices to the internet, to act as a firewall, to provide power to devices.
Which of the following is an example of a web server? Apache, what's the SQL
SQL.
again? MySQL. I always get that wrong. Windows 10 or Cisco router.
What does DNS stand for in server terminology? A, domain name server, B, data network server, C, digital node server, or D, dynamic name server.
Which type of server stores and manages email? A, file server, B, mail server, C, database server, or D, proxy server.
Number 5, what is the purpose of a proxy server? A, acts as an intermediary between clients and servers. B, stores large amounts of data. C, provides wireless connectivity. Or D, manages user accounts.
In the next page here, which protocol is commonly used to transfer files between a client and server? A, HTTP, B, FTP, C, SMTP, or D, DNS?
7. What is the main function of a database server? A, hosts websites. B, stores and manages structured data. C, provides internet access. D, secures a network.
8. Which of the following is a cloud server provider? A, Amazon Web Services. B, Microsoft Excel. C, Adobe Photoshop. Or D, Mozilla Firefox?
Number 9. What term describes a server that hosts multiple virtual machines? A, hypervisor. B, load balancer. C, firewall. D, proxy server.
And question number 10. What is a key benefit of using a dedicated server? A, exclusive use of server resources. B, lower costs than shared hosting. C, limited customization options. Or D, reduced performance. So these are some test questions we're going to take a look at a little bit later. Hopefully we'll be able to answer some of these for you along this road.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So, Mark, what is a server? Let's get down to the basics of this.
Sure. It's a powerful computer that manages other computer and other device connections on a network.
Okay.
Yep.
And is this used for various networks?
Yeah. So everything from gaming to your normal website serving out, database file management for companies, file managers, things like that. Basically, it acts to authenticate users who have permission to execute functions on that device, and then there are functions that can work globally pretty much the same for users in that experience.
Yeah, and so why is a server important? I mean, without them, basically, we wouldn't have internet access, right? We wouldn't have any of these capabilities.
Right. Servers do a few things. If you notice, so like in our office, we have these little boxes, right? Mm-hmm. And that's not really a computer, even though it is. A lot of what it does is it creates essentially like a remote desktop client on a virtual server. Okay. So basically a virtual server, if you think of one box and you think of it sliced in, 10, 20, 30 pieces, what they do is they take a percentage of the CPU processing power for each device that's logged in there and allocate that solely to that device. So the memory, the CPU processing, and the disk space are all allocated for that device, and it acts as a virtual desktop to that end client. So you're not having an individual box with a hard drive or a solid state drive and a graphics card and everything on one device. This is connectivity into a master device that then houses all of that.
Yeah, and doesn't that add an extra layer of protection as well?
There's security involved. When you have desktop computers, way back in the day, when I first started managing networks or working on networks, everybody had their own, IBM, right? And, you'd have its hard drive, it'd have it, all of its stuff. Yeah. And the connectivity and the files that were located on there were local. Okay. Now that when you have it in this kind of setup, you have it in a protected environment so that just like we use different drive letters, iDrive, the public drive, the library, those can be backed up and protected as one unit in one single place, as opposed to having to make sure every individual computer is backed up in the network. Right?
Makes sense, yeah. And so what you have coming through this hub as well is multiple servers, correct? Because you're going to have a mail server.
Right.
You're going to have like a video card server. You're going to have dedicated line server.
Right. You have servers that do different functions. So like you mentioned, mail servers that use, SMTP to transfer messages. It's a protocol that we use to transfer messages in and out. So emails, essentially. The authentication servers. So do you have permission to be on the network? Microsoft has their own version. It used to way back in the day. What was it called? NT, Windows NT.
Oh, yeah, I remember
that was a
that.
network version of Windows, and then you had these servers that would perform the Exchange servers that would process the validation for who could be on that network and who couldn't, right? So when you log in and then you're in to access and in that world anyway, and I'm not as familiar with our architecture, but in that world, we had the boxes, and we did have some of the little Capio devices that we created virtual servers to do, but when you tap into the main server, we were delivering up an application that everybody used. So kind of like SBT or Telemagic.
Gotcha.
It was a common, system that everybody could use. And then within that server, we had RAID hard drives, which is a redundant array of independent disks, which is what RAID stands for. And basically, you could pull one drive out and it would still operate because they would do, parity with striping, let's say. And so the data would be repeated. Like, say if you had 5 disks, your data would be repeated, let's say, on 3 of the 5 disks. So if any one disk was out, the full set of data would still exist on the other 4 disks.
Gotcha. So it was like a horizontal scenario.
Physically, no, but
is the lineage of the data.
Right. It would write the data multiple times, but different pieces of the data to the different 5 disks.
Gotcha.
So one data element might exist on 3 of the disks, right? And so if any of the 3 disks were still in, all the complete data set would still be there. So
nice.
if you had a hard drive crash, you could just pull it out on a hot swap bay, plug it back in a new drive, and then it would reallocate and catch up to where it was.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah. And now today you have multiple different types of servers. I mean, it's almost like you need a server for a separate entity of data sets that are coming through.
You can. Depends on how big the data sets are and, how complex the server, the tables are in the database. So whether, the different types of SQL servers have a database structure that is composed of tables, and then the tables are related to each other. And one table, let's say you have a name table and then it has a key, and then that name is tied to addresses, and there's an address key, and that one person might have multiple addresses, let's say, depending on what kind of data it is. And, there might be different demographics. And then if there's account notes, that would relate back to that person, that account, and then a table with notes in it. And the notes may even have transactions, financial transactions.
Gotcha.
The notes may have different tables depending on the kind of note it was.
Sure.
So there are ways to build them that, are very complex, and the way that distributes the load in analyzing the data or grabbing the data and writing the data is basically how big your server farm gets. You think of Amazon, you think of how big.
I imagine that's huge.
Right. And then not only do they got so good at it doing what they do with their products that they now have Amazon Web Services for customers who want to use the cloud architecture that they've built.
Wow.
So it is a wow. It's big. It's
That's huge. Yeah. I can't fathom the size of that.
No. It's and the complexity of it. I mean, just understanding the topology of that network and how it's all laid out. And then they do the term is gonna evade me here. It's what Cloudflare is. Where say you put a website out there, and then you want that website to be fast. You want it to be snappy.
Sure.
So what they do is they replicate your website. Okay, you have it. Let's say in the server in the United States. Say it's in Phoenix on a server. But what they do is they replicate your website to servers around the world.
Okay.
And then they ping back only if it's requesting something that hasn't recently been updated. And
From the main server.
Right.
To copy
So
back
what they're
over.
doing is they're looking at it, an instance of your website. And then if there's any transactional information that needs to pass, like you're placing an order, let's say, and you're in France, right? You're ordering from an American website, but the server that they're actually connecting to is in France. It's going to be snappy, but then the order information is going to end up going to the U.S. website, right? So it's pretty
It's
cool.
integral. I mean, it really is.
It's really crazy how.
I want to know more about how these things work. So you pull up picture number 2, and we're just going to take a look at what makes up the server here, right? So
Yep.
there's the inside workings of a
guts.
process server, the guts you call it there. So what makes up a server? Number 1 there is the processor, the CPU. Handles instructions and multitasking for multiple users.
Right.
I mean,
And-
that's a very important piece of this puzzle.
Right. And companies like Intel have gotten so they've refined this and defined a whole generation of computers by how their architecture works. And one chip could actually have multiple processors on it now. Used to be it would be
one to one,
you
right?
put one in there and it'd be there, and if you wanted 2 processors, then you bought a motherboard with 2 processor slots, and that was it. But now they've built chips with multiple processors on them, so you could have a 32 processor computer with
Wow.
one chip in it.
Wow. And then, of course, RAM, we all know about this, memory. Back in the old day, I remember going and buying your own memory stick and putting it in the system.
Yep, sliding in the slot, make sure they're the same, make sure that, yep.
But yeah, you definitely need to make sure you have enough memory or RAM to hold the data sets that you have.
Yep.
Again, storage, that's a big part of it, right?
Yep. The solid state drives and hard disk drives now, SSDs are becoming much more popular, and for good reason. I mean, they don't crash.
Yeah.
They do have a functional lifespan, but it's, X number of read-write transactions, and you can kind of see it coming down the road.
Can you?
Yeah. If you have monitoring software, then you know how many read-writes have happened into a particular SSD, component. And whereas like a hard disk drive, it was like a record player is a spinning platter with a write head on there, and after a while it'd just go and a little needle would just fall off the edge, and that would be the crash. Yeah.
You need an NIC card, right? Network interface card.
Yep, a NIC.
And then you need a power supply. That's pretty basic there. Cooling systems, this is a big one, right? We always talk about data centers and keeping the equipment cool.
Right.
So you
And
got
we've
to
talked
have a
about
cooling
this with the
system.
liquid cooling, with the immersion technology now, and keeping your components.
Yeah, you have to keep them cool.
Yeah.
I mean, the number 1 killer is probably heat when it comes down to this stuff. And then a redundant array of independent
that's
disk
RAID.
controllers.
Yeah, there we go.
Yep, we were talking about RAID earlier.
Yep, exactly. So that's just a series of disks that like I said, receive data, and the RAID distributes it among the series of disks. And there's like RAID 0, which is no RAID at all, and then RAID 1, RAID 2, RAID 3 level. There's different levels depending on how many disks are in the array and how it does the parity with striping. So
Yeah, so that's a basic setup of what a server looks like. And what
you
it
know
takes
what's
to
not
make up
on there
one
though is the graphics card.
Yeah, I noticed that too earlier when I put this
Yeah.
together. I thought,
And
afterwards, where's that at?
Yeah, it's pretty important. And nowadays too, used to be that they would use the CPU as part of the graphics, or it'd be on board on the motherboard as a graphics. And I think some of them still have them like on board, but it would use resources from the motherboard. So the processor that was in there, the RAM that was in there, and now they make, these NVIDIA especially makes these cards that can work on their own. They do their own processing.
Okay.
They build all these server farms with for Bitcoin mining, let's say, and they use all the processing power of these graphics cards.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Man,
So
advancement.
it doesn't take any resources from the computer. So somebody figured out a way to just daisy chain all that and use the processing power of all those, because they were pretty intense. I mean, it was the most intense part sometimes of a PC setup, because they'd have to run the graphics of the.
It took a lot of power to run those graphics.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, if you're going to play, World of Warcraft or whatever.
yeah, there's a lot of processing power
Yeah.
right there. Let's get into this page here, these components of what web servers are out there.
Okay.
There's many different types of web servers, and that's something we want to talk a little bit about here, because I know we're running time-wise eating up once again.
Where did it go?
So we're going to talk about the various servers for just a brief moment.
Yep. So first, we mentioned before web server, and so that's when you visit a website. Obviously, something is giving you that information back. A website is served. It's on basically a virtual environment. Although some websites have dedicated servers, most are served in a virtual environment. So remember, the virtual environment is taking one box, slicing it up into 10, 20, 30 slices, and sharing resources as it delivers that out. And they use different operating systems for the servers, like Apache, Nginx, and Microsoft IIS, which is Internet Information Server.
Yeah, and then you have database server. So every time you log in or search or save something online, database servers at work. It stores and manages large sets of information as tools like MySQL again.
MySQL?
I don't know why I can't remember that. MySQL. And then you have PostgreSQL, Microsoft SQL servers. Just makes for perfect apps, especially for business and handling lots of data.
Exactly. And then number 3, we have on the list file server, which is, when you're sharing documents within a company. That's just a common area for files to be located. File servers also would apply to like company databases where you're, using an app and it's hitting a main database, then it's serving files directly to the end user client.
And then here's one we all use pretty much on a daily basis. That's a mail server, right? So in a nutshell, every email you have out there that send or receive in the mail server is managing the flow.
Right.
I mean, it's pretty basic, pretty simple.
Yep. Very good. And application server serves up apps. So when you talk about like your phone, and there's apps on your phone, there are servers that actually launch those apps. There's files that get stored on your device, but then the main data elements for the app server are located, for the app are located on the server, not technically on your device.
Gotcha. And then number 6 here, you have a proxy server. Proxy server acts as kind of a go between you and the internet. So it adds that extra layer of security there for you.
Yep.
And there's many different tools there to help, manage your traffic and improve performance.
Right. Then you have game servers. Obviously, that's a really popular application for servers. It's how you can play multiplayer games with players from around the world. Mm-hmm. Brings everybody together in an environment. And
I think that's kind of cool. I'm going to bring this up really quick, talking about games from around the world. There's an establishment we go to where you throw darts, right?
Yeah.
Well, it has a little video screen on
called
the
a bar?
dartboard. It is called a bar.
Okay.
Yeah, right?
All right.
Anyway, they got this little they have this little screen there, this little video screen, so you can actually play with anyone else in the world.
Right.
So you can actually do virtual darts while you're playing with somebody else who stays in Frankfurt, Germany.
Right. Well, they do that with trivia, with the trivia games and stuff. Where the boxes where you can,
Yeah, it's good stuff. Number 8, we have streaming server. I think we've all used this. It's just for streaming a show or a live event. Streaming server delivers the audio, video to your device.
Yep. Netflix.
Yep.
Spotify.
Prime Video.
Yep.
I mean,
all that good
sorts of stuff.
Apache Web Server is a type of server. It's open architecture. It's open source. It is one of the more popular setups, and it makes websites customizable. All the functions that operate behind the scenes in a website, from how it handles connections and what types of connections it allows, to all the code that's used to actually build build the sites.
Yeah, then you have a static web server. This one's a little bit different because it does just one thing well. It takes one thing and says, we're doing just this one thing. We're going to deliver unchanging data set for like HTML, CSS, and so forth.
Yep. So DNS server set is how your computer knows when you type in msn.com. How does it identify it? Because every server has an IP address. Those IP addresses are 4 sets of 3-digit numbers, and none of those numbers can be higher than 255. And it tells it where in the world does MSN point to, and it translates it into that address, and then routes your request to that IP address.
Nice.
Yep.
Takes you all the way there. So next we have FTP server. This is a need to transfer files between computer over a network.
Yep.
So it's very designed strictly just to transfer one file from point A to point B.
Exactly. Then that's when you're doing websites. A lot of times you'll FTP into the website and transfer files that you might want to use for your website. If you're if you design locally and upload your files, then FTP is one way to do that. Virtual servers, number 13, and we talked about that a little bit, but that's basically taking a box and slicing it up into instances of servers, and then each one of those instances is called a virtual server because it's technically not a full box.
Yeah.
It's virtually a server, right? And so that slice of that one box acts as its own independent server.
Nice. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
And then number 14, we have Blade server. This is where we're just kind of getting the scalability down a little bit more. These modular servers are housed in a chassis and shares power, cooling, just kind of slimming things down, right?
Yep.
And just saying, okay, you are responsible for this amount of procedures.
Exactly. And so just remember, all of our Gruber products work to facilitate this connectivity. Whether it's fiber, copper, whether you need to mount your servers in a rack, we kind of handle all of the intermediary stuff that makes everything talk to each other and connect and sit in comfort.
Very true. Yeah, right?
Yep.
Hey, really quick before we got to go, let's get back to these first 2 tests and go over the answers really quick. I said we would, right?
Okay.
So you want to pull those up again there for us, Cass? Hopefully you guys learned a little bit today and can maybe answer some of these. So number 1, what is the primary function of a server in a network? A, to store and manage data, to connect devices internet, to act as a firewall, or to provide power to devices. The answer is going to be A, server, store and manage, deliver data or services to other devices in a network.
Okay, and I'm going to jump just to the answer. So just in the interest of time. Number 2, which of the following is an example of a web server? The correct answer was A. Apache is a popular software used to serve websites over the internet.
And number 3, what does DNS stand for in terminology? The answer is A. DNS translates domain names into IP addresses for network communications.
And number 4, which types of server stores and manages email? The answer is B, mail server. They're built to send, receive, and store email messages.
And number 5, what is the purpose of a proxy server? And the answer is A. Proxy servers enhance security and performance and relying on client request.
Yep, they relay.
Client request.
Yep. And number 6, what protocol is commonly used to transfer files between a client and server? The answer is B. FTP is a standard protocol for transferring files.
Number 7, what is the main function of a database server? The answer is B. Database servers organize and provide access to data for applications.
Number 8, which of the following is a cloud server provider? The answer is A. Amazon Web Service offers scalable cloud-based computing and storage services.
What term describes a server that hosts multiple virtual machines? This is one I don't think we got to in our little questionnaire there, but the answer is going to be A. Hypervision allows one physical server to operate multiple virtual servers.
There we go. And number 10, what is a key benefit of using a dedicated server? The answer is A. Dedicated servers provide better performance and full control.
Yeah.
All right.
There we go.
And just acknowledge Erica's comment here. Wow, you guys really went into this. That's awesome. Thank you so much for the information. You're very welcome.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more.
Yeah, we barely touched the surface on this one
As
and a half
usual,
hour.
right?
It's just, yeah, the information's out there.
Right.
Though,
Well,
so.
we thank you for hanging with us a little over our allotted 30 minutes, but we appreciate this. Like, subscribe, and share this podcast. We're here every Thursday at 3 p.m. And just a quick reminder, John, tomorrow's Susan's birthday, so just make sure you handle that.
Go there, would
all
you?
right.
Happy
So
birthday,
for now,
Susan.
I'm John Dotson.
I'm John Dotson.
Have a great day.